Hello. I feel the energy swelling within me, bringing me awake. I'm gonna say bringing me back to life, but I'm already living. Just a little tired, and this iced coffee is not helping. We're about halfway as we start today. Everything's sort of been like sitting here. 4235 is the number today, which is interesting. Well, I guess we have evens and then odds, right? 4235. So 2345, but in a jumbled order. It's a decreasing evens, increasing odds. Also, as an aside, like I've been drinking a as I have a water filter. I got it out of storage, so I've been drinking a lot more water. I wasn't drinking that much water before. I got it out of storage, so for like a month and a half to two-ish months. And I'm appreciating different things about different classes of beverages. Like I've been really enjoying the fizz of carbonated beverages, but the syrup from some of the pops have been like sitting on my tongue, and it's not even that it's sweet, it's just like too syrupy. I've been enjoying the hydration of an athletic beverage or an energy, not an energy drink, hydration drink like Gatorade or whatever. And there's something about that I love. Water is in a class all of its own. I don't know what I have been enjoying about drinking water, but I've been loving it. And then iced coffee, I love because I drink it with you guys. I have created a new thingy in my brain. Or if I get a nice coffee, I gotta go live. Iced Coffee Chronicles. So I was thinking about the poet, and it's related to a dream that I've had. When the first thing about the second moon came out with the Archangel of Mysteries, so that might have been for Libra season. Um, there's this whole thing that I don't know if I didn't piece it together before today, but I woke up today and it just like eventually I was like, oh, but I don't know if that's one of those like what's for me isn't necessarily for thee types of things, or if it's something that's like more broadly collective because it was such a specific, almost like trade off, I guess. So I have the well known alchemy and archetypes. If it comes out in the archetypes, if the poet comes out again, then we'll do that. If it doesn't, then we will do something else. So I think what I want to do is I know I want to start with alchemy. I don't think I'm going to do final cards today. Um, I'm going to start with the alchemy, right? And then I'm going to pull before and after the number of the corresponding card, and that'll give us archetypes. And then I want to link the archetypes back to alchemy in some way. So we'll see. We'll see how types or how we link the alchemy back to archetypes. But we're gonna start with the alchemy or the archetypes. It's gonna be a day. I'm already confusing. Let's see. Oh, oh, this like one card, just gnosis. Okay. It didn't like flip or fall, it just like landed so decisively on my hand and like nothing else fell. It'll come out if it's meant to. I want a clean flip or a clean fall, preferably one card because of how I'm doing this. I guess I could just pick the card then. Up. There we go. I got one card that was a go. Here we go. I feel like it's just like something that continually is unfolding, that unfolds a little bit more and more and more, or is it something that we see the significance of more times we see it? Meaning like the different areas that are impacted by this one alchemical process. So if you know the alchemy and you've been watching, you may know. They've been like, I am not trying to get coffee on my cards. Uh, it's number 25. The alchemy of 25 is silver, which is all about polishing something. The card, however, in the archetypes is the healer. I think I will read that in the book. At the bottom of the deck is number 28, the shadow. And even in the shadow, there's this light, dark shadow, whatever. I don't know when I got like really bad at being able to just like, I think it's because for the longest time, when I would go live on YouTube from my laptop, it would flip the video. So I got used to like knowing stuff was or like pointing the stuff, navigating with it flipped. But at a certain point, it stopped flipping the video. And that's why now I'm like so confused. But that's also, I'm one of those types of people that will sometimes I'll get used to how things are in a non-ideal state, right? And then I'll clean it up. But when I clean it up to match how I think it should be, then I'm like doing what I used to do. So I'm still like still lost. And it's like, okay. Anyway, I was like, well, I guess I could change it back. But I like the layout. I like the setup more. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'll just eventually I'll get back to it. I think if I maybe I'll start drinking like those one waters. I'll get the fizz of carbonation. I want the hydration. Is there any drink that gives all three? Like the hydration feeling, the hydrating feeling of like Gatorade, Powerade, whatever electrolyte beverage. Uh, the fizz of a carbonated beverage, but just that like all around wholesome feeling of water. Something that isn't necessarily super syrupy because apparently my tongue is sensitive to syrup all of a sudden. I don't know. I feel like it started with that one iced coffee that was just like really syrupy. And after that, I'm like, oh. And I was drinking like the tiny cans, the 7.5-ounce cans, not even a full cup. And I graduated to the 12-ounce cans, and it was too much. Anyway, enough of my problems. I kind of want to do a self read, but I don't know what I want to do a self read for. And I feel like this number 25, excuse me, which is a seven, 25 is 295 because a 39 is 27. Did I say 27? I meant 25. 25 is a 295 because a 39 is 27. I don't know why. Said that. I don't know where that was supposed to go. Number 15 at the bottom of the deck, Yosis reddening with the oil of vitriol in reverse under that, and the androgen upright behind that. The Y salt is not fully in reverse under the androgen, but more in reverse than upright. And I feel like someone just did a video on it recently, and by recently I mean like yesterday, about how our experience on Earth can sometimes taint our understanding of certain principles that aren't earthbound. It's like how we see it manifest on Earth, or the framework that we inherit for how we see it manifesting on Earth, and how it doesn't necessarily correlate to the thing and its true divine radiance. And so the androgen upright with the white salt almost in reverse, it's like one of those. It may not be what you necessarily think. Cool. I know that we're looking for silver because I've seen silver and the number 25 has been haunting me on these. And again, it's about the polishing. If we don't polish something, it will tarnish. And if we inherit something, or if we go like antiquing, um, and it hasn't been cared for in a while, then it's a lot of polishing that may need to happen. And I guess I've only been thinking polishing. See, look, there's Pluto. When Pluto came out with silver, and it was like, oh, the hand of Pluto is polishing the cobwebs off of whatever this is. Today it's reading like the soul. Pluto is polishing the cobwebs off of the soul. I mean, if anyone had interaction with Pluto or with the soul, if any planet did, it would either be Neptune through the space of dreams or Pluto because it rules the underworld. And in the underworld, that's kind of sort of all that you have. You don't have a physical body anymore. So maybe the spirit more so than the soul. But what's the difference between the spirit and the soul? It feels like today, at least, spirit has a little bit more of the egoic self connected to it. So it's almost like in between the ego and pure soul is the spirit. So we may not have like, because there is no earthly body, there may not necessarily be as much in the spirit, in the ego of the spirit that is about like material things. But almost like our understanding of things persists, you know? That makes sense. I'm pulling from the bottom. So this card is near the top of the deck, which again, I'm not surprised because silver has just been coming out like every time. Here we go. It's in between lead and blood. Last time we had iron, and I thought that it was lead. So after blood is sulfur, before lead is tin. Before tin is the peacock's tail, which looks like these bands of light coming out of tin. That's why I mentioned it. But I feel like the word is striations. It's striated differently. It's like horizontal and one in vertical. Like if this were to come out, let's see, I did it again. If this were to come out of tin, it would look like this. Oh gosh. Ah! It would look like this where we would see all of the colors coming out instead of like one color after the other. See, but it's almost like if it came out like, I guess it depends because we see a rainbow as the different wavelengths of light in that spectrum. We don't see it as white light. So I was gonna say if it came out like this and the peacock's tail, it would almost be a white light because we would see all of it at once. Excuse me, but again, rainbows are a thing, so maybe not necessarily. But I guess rainbows occur because the light is refracted through like raindrops in the atmosphere. I think that's refraction. Yeah. Sagittarius, did you call? Okay. So we have lead and blood coming around its healing. What is sepsis? I think it's sepsis. That is like an ailment of the blood. Like there's lead in the blood and it's biologically it's supposed to be iron. Uh, sepsis occurs when chemicals released in the bloodstream to fight an infection trigger inflammation throughout the body. This can cause a cascade of changes that damage multiple organ systems, leading them to fail. Sometimes, yeah. When chemicals released to fight an infection instead trigger inflammation. So that's interesting because it's almost in theory something that's meant to be healing that becomes, hey Holly, how you doing? Happy early birthday. It's almost something. Oh, thanks for the suggestion. Does that? Oh, and tonic water. There's the fizz. Something that's meant to be healing instead becomes like damaging, which is almost the opposite of this. Because with the perceptions of the snake, it's like something that's meant to cause harm, and the venom is instead used to heal. I did say I wanted to read this because this is supposed to lead us to another archetype. Maybe it's because the shadow is here. The shadow and lead. It's almost like in lead, we are zooming in on, first of all, the configuration is different. Even the shadow, it's like you would think that it would be like the white triangle, the black triangle, and then the gray in between where they merge. But the black is on that border between the white and the gray, meaning that it's almost like one of those, the opposite of no problem. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's apathy. Because there's like the opposite of light is darkness, it's shadow. Dark is the thing in between light and shadow where it all gets like fuzzy and gray. Almost like it's a pendulum. So yeah, it's like a pendulum. If this is love and this is apathy, then hate would be like this point in between love and apathy. And it's not. It's just like metaphorically. I probably messed up in the beginning. As soon as them cards came out, that was like, so we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to try to not make this so earthbound because those cards already came out. It was like the wise salt that was almost in reverse because of how we see, view, or interact with these things. Oh snap! On Earth, we color them in a non-Earth centric context that doesn't necessarily reveal a full truth. So here, I feel like in lead, we see it more how we would think of it on Earth as like this gray shadow in between the light and the dark, rather than like light dark shadow. This isn't going to be 30 minutes. It's fine. Because honestly, what comes to mind is these three snakes. It's making me think of when Mars conjuncted Uranus, and I pulled the cards. I almost use it. I almost grabbed that deck. It's like sitting right there. Like my itch for the Fable Makers is starting to be real itchy. Like I'm gonna have to scratch it. Um, and it was a whole like it was water and fire. Then there is the fire that evaporates water, the water that extinguishes fire, but that third state of fire and water in harmony. And it's kind of like that third state that gave birth to the universe. That's what leads to like earth and air. Well, I guess you could say that fire that evaporates water creates air, evaporated water. And the water that douses the fire creates ash, which is earth. So well, I guess you get like this fire, earth, air, water, all existing in whatever harmony or balance. Like from an earth perspective, it feels like some kind of quasi equilibrium. Like from an earth perspective, it doesn't feel very stable. And I don't know if it's the gravity of earth or the denseness of earth, but it feels like in space, in a vacuum, it would be like the most stable state. Cool. Let's read the healing. Open to the river. The river is number 34. So we wait. That's the 25. The healer is the light worker, the gifted, the old soul. Excuse me. Though some claim the work of the healer as their gift and name it as their dharma, the force of this archetype is within everyone. It is our natural inclination to remember, to return to, and to reclaim that central and eternal life force from which we so easily drift away. In Sanskrit, the word avidya means forgetting, and it is said that this is the source of all suffering and dis-ease. The healer's mission then becomes to move through the comfort of forgetting, through the veils of ignorance and denial, to reveal the radiance that already exists. The healer approaches this in multiple ways, from multiple angles, knowing the cycle of healing is not linear. It is a multi-layered and circuitous process, always leading back to its own origin, much like the Ouroboros. The Ouroboros is the other thing, because I was like, the Ouroboros is um, so what like the poet or whatever means to me. It was like all of the pieces were there, and they kept coming up. And then today, for some reason, not even necessarily thinking about it, it all just like clicked. And I was like, oh. I'm like, well, because all the pieces were there, I had to have mentioned it at some point, right? So this is very silver. To move through the comfort of forgetting through the veils of ignorance and denial to reveal the radiance that already exists, especially revealing the radiance that already exists. That's the polishing, the mirror, getting the dust or the smoke off of the smoky mirror. That was the hand of Pluto that was like wiping away the cobwebs. And while there is a septic energy here of lead in the blood, especially since it's supposed to be like iron, iron in the blood is what carries or ferries oxygen throughout the body. I don't know what like lead poisoning is, like the nitty gritty of it. But because lead turns into gold, it's like it's transmuting the lead in blood into gold. Golden blood, almost giving an Ichor type of uh energy. It is Ichor, right? Because I know ambrosia is what the at least Greco-Roman gods eat or drink, but I think the blood of the gods is Ichor. The fluid that flows like blood in the veins of the gods. Yeah, yeah. So it transmutes blood into Ichor. Oh, this may not be as long as I thought. Now, one of the easy things to go for would be the king, but I don't know if that's how I want to find the alchemy. Hey, there's my buddy. No, two of my buddies. I think Eastern time right now. Excuse me. He should be in Canada. About ready to go back to London. So through polishing, we transmute the blood, we transmute the lead in the blood into gold, giving rise to Ichor. This make it honestly does call the Ouroboros of um and the water known alchemy to mind, because as something transits through the bodily system of the Ouroboros, it's like transmuted into gold. So what I'm gonna do is, as the decks are, I'm gonna look before and after Ouroboros, and then I'm gonna pull the corresponding numbers and the archetypes, and that's how we'll bring it back. Right, right. Oh, look, and then Hyros Gamos. Hyros Gamos was under sulfur. Excuse me, alchemical wedding. There was something else. that was like this. I also love, or I am intrigued because we go from these two different ways of showing and depicting black, white, and gray to in Hieroscamos, it's like the colors are flipped. Hieroscamos is number 60, if you're curious. What is an Epicurean? Oh, glasses right next. Okay, okay, all right. So we got Mystical Sister, Glass, and the Fog. Because again, something about the glass, something about the mirror. I can ask Google. Is an Epicurean like a foodie? That's a foodie, right? Hey Google. Hey Google. Define Epicurean.
Here's the definition of Epicurean: a disciple or student of the Greek philosopher Epicurus.
So not about food. That does not help. So what was Epicurus about? Oh goodness. We're gonna have to actually Google Epicurean philosophy. Can I do that? Epicurean paradox. Okay, they have Epicurean philosophy and Epicurean paradox. I gotta go for the paradox. Are we going for the? I don't know. Sometimes the AI review don't really. It doesn't give what I would like for it to be given. So, but where's the paradox of it? Are we going for the Google overview, the AI overview? Epicureanism is a school of ancient Greek philosophy that focuses on finding happiness through moderation, simplicity, and a life of virtue and community. Founded in 307 BCE, based upon the teachings of Epicurus. Epicurus was an atomist and materialist, following in the steps of Democritus. His materialism led him to religious skepticism and a general attack on superstition and divine intervention. Oh, girl, we ain't got time for all that. Epicureanism was originally a challenge to Platonism, and its main opponent later became Stoicism. It is a form of hedonism insofar as it declares pleasure to be its sole intrinsic goal. However, the concept that the absence of pain and fear constitutes the greatest pleasure and its advocacy of a simple life make it very different from hedonism as colloquially understood. Why did I think that would be? Oh, what am I thinking about with like a foodie? Anyway, sure, philosophy, cool, love it. It's materialism. The oh, I ain't got enough brain fog. Where's Rob? Okay, looking before and after or boys. Maybe like the thing that I could probably get down with from that short Wikipedia breakdown of Epicurean philosophy is that hopefully we can get to the point where like we know that to live is to suffer. We know that there are always going to be challenges, but to get to a point where maybe it doesn't have to be like a pain and suffering type challenge, you know? And especially when it comes to healing, the idea that healing is never over because we are constantly growing. I guess it Maybe there is a disambiguation using Wikipedia terms. Maybe there's a disambiguation of healing that can be done. Like, oh, did you mean this kind of feeling? Did you mean that kind of feeling? Because it's almost like, let's say that there is an infection somewhere or that there is inflammation somewhere. The healing in that case would be to reduce and hopefully eventually eliminate the inflammation. But then maybe there will be a switch to like a preventative care type of philosophy where it's like, okay, we've like healed, reduced the inflammation. Now let's make changes so that the inflammation never occurs again. Technically, I feel like there's an argument where you could say that preventative care isn't necessarily the same as like healing because in order to heal something, it almost implies that there is some kind of ailment. And even as we face challenges in life, it doesn't necessarily mean that like I don't know, like there's a whole philosophical whatever in that. So the Epicureanism isn't there is a space and a place for it to move to like preventative care rather than like being in a state of constant healing. And now this is like I'm going back to the bottom. Here's Ouroboros. Oof. So before Ouroboros is number 34. Ouroboros itself is number 45. And then after Ouroboros is number 2. So we have the moon and Quicksilver, which is interesting. Even though Quicksilver is associated with no, this is silver, not Quicksilver. So silver is associated with them. Cool. We have calcification number 64. Oh, and sparks of light number 46. Is this 46? XL40 VI6. LX60 IV4. 4664 mirrors. And then iron is behind sparks of light. And the sap of the moon plant is behind calcification. Cool. Wow. Little unexpected mirror situation. I'm gonna set these aside because that's cool. All right. So there's no more fuss. So there's no more seeds, and my garden thrives. You should see my nectarines. Oh gosh. And I'm telling you the Cemetery Kings and Queens. We have number is this 64? LXIV. LXIV. So behind shadow or behind the shadow was the offering. And it's the same number as calcification. I was looking at that every time I referenced the shadow card because I think I picked it up to every time I picked it up to show the card, the offering was sitting right there. And the moon is there, like this old crescent moon type situation. I went into that at the grocery store the other day. I don't remember why. Parsley, peppers, asparagus, um, and fiddle ferns and lettuce. Maybe. It's fine. Okay. Looking for number 2 and 34. 34 should be an archetype of place. 2 is an archetype of person, right? Yeah, because here's 55 and that's a thing. There's 33. That's 7. Oh, it's 26. Yeah. Into the Woods, for those who don't know. Which is the same musical that brought us The Steps of the Palace, Cinderella. This time I'd run from him. He spread pitch on the stairs. I was caught unawares. And I thought, well, who cares? Anyway, I should watch that. I have the soundtrack on my phone. It's one of those I loved. Act one, act two. It depends on the mood I was in. More often than not, I would only want to watch act one. Like, let me just believe that there is a happy ending and no tragedy. Let my little Piscean heart just have this, please. Just this one time, can we pretend like Act Two isn't a thing? I'm like, well, that's not realistic, Pisces. Whatever. I really thought the Queen for some reason was number two. It might be the Mother. We are because I don't know. We're nearing. This is how many cards we have left. This is how many cards there were. Hey, I haven't read signs for this month, but the last time I read Virgo, I feel like Virgo was in a good position. I feel like Virgo is nearly always in a good position over here on this channel. But to the question, I have not looked. Sorry, but I feel like where was Virgo? Uh, but more often than not, two is the father. Ooh. See, and it's the same. So this is the side of lead, and under the father is Alethea. There's something about this black and white. Interesting. Now 34. This is like how many cards I got. These are definitely towards the top. I don't even remember what else. Is this 34? The river. This is interesting because when I first opened up the book, I opened it to the river and I said that. So after the river is the seed. The river and the seed is such an interesting combination because almost like Cushiel and brain, but in a different context. Um, it feels like the river. Maybe it depends on the seed. It feels like for the standard seed, a river of water will like drown it. It will wash it out unless it's a seed that in water, it needs at least a little bit of earth. Now the river, however, is under blood. So we have a river of blood, which gives a certain Sekhmet type energy. I think it's Sekhmet. Um, and then we have the land of the father. Trying to think if there are masculine waters. I mean, I guess it would be like a king of cups type energy. So if okay. So I'm not gonna go pull it before and after the king of cups. even though I kind of sort of desperately want to. The challenge of the King of Cups and the deck dungeon challenge is we get to ask three yes or no questions. And if the Archmage of Water deems questions particularly thoughtful, then he awards us the Tome of Understanding, which has the ability to increase our wisdom beyond normal limitations. Like in D&D, there's a soft cap of 20 to all of the stats, but there are situations and circumstances where you can go above 20. The Tome of Understanding is one of those situations. So it's possible to have superhuman wisdom or a wisdom that goes beyond uh, typical human understanding. Oh. So at the bottom of the two decks, again, we have iron, which is number 22. I don't know if I mentioned iron because this is what's supposed to be. Under iron is quicksilver. So maybe that's where my brain went, quicksilver. Because it kind of like looks like the moon, but it's actually Mercury. And that's number 24. We have the seed here, which is number 66. LX 50 plus 10, and then one after 5, 66. Oh my gosh. Under 66 is the poem. This is the card that I was like, but it didn't come out. So maybe that was a for Patrick type thing. Like after I finish going live, and even sometimes while I'm live, there are all kinds of like personal synchronicities that I'll catch. But I'm like, is that like a collective thing or is it like me? And if the card really come out to say it, then I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't me. Anyway, because they resonate differently for everybody. Oh, I didn't even catch this. So we have 20 in lead and the two of the father slash the moon. And then at the bottom over here was 22. And I was like, it should be iron in the blood, not lead, because iron is that carrier of oxygen. But then there's like 20 plus 2 is 22. Cool. Cute. Love it. 34 plus 37 is not 66, but it's close. Because blood is 37. The river is 34. The average of 37 and 34 is 35. No, 35.5. Doesn't matter. No, no, let's try to stay focused. The river is giving me, I think this is the hunter. I'm pretty sure this is the hunter. So the river, it's giving me, not only is it a boundary, or not only can it be a natural boundary, but it's like if someone is being chased, they like go into the river because the water like washes away their scent or whatever. And so it makes it easier to escape the hunter. I guess depending on the hunter. But there's also something about like ghosts not being able to cross rivers. And it could be ghosts of the past. It could be Ebenezer Scrooge, ghosts of the past, present, or future. I think a ghost of the future is more so like if things continue as they are now, then this is a very probable outcome. Almost going back to the energy of fate that has also kind of sort of been a thing lately. But fate as like as we are now, and as we make choices and decisions now, with the things and the challenges that we are destined to come upon, we will make these choices. And the choices that we make at these destined challenges or whatever, that's what creates fate. But if we were to make a different choice or to change in a way where we would make a different choice, then even with the same destiny, even with the same challenges that are going to come our way, we pick a different path. We change our fate. We can change our fate and our destiny remains the same. Now, where Patrick falls on fate and destiny, it depends on the energy, it depends on the day. It's one of those like that's just it's how it's feeling today. And it's how it's been feeling recently. With the father and the moon, and because of this image of the father, there is something in father energy, something in masculine energy that either we don't see or that we don't typically attribute to masculine or father energy. So I feel like even if I were to read this in the book, it wouldn't necessarily be helpful. Again, it plays on those like because of our interaction and perception of certain archetypes and energies on earth, it colors our perspective in a way that doesn't necessarily align with the truth of the thing or what it means in a non-earth centric sort of way. Again, that was Define Phoenix Rising Tarot, his collective video yesterday, where he brought up the difference in like gender and divine feminine masculine energies. And just because we experience gender, just because we are in the way of experiencing gender as the social construct of today, doesn't mean that it necessarily has these super clear cut one to one correlations to the divine feminine masculine energy. He said there is no correlation. I am likely to agree, honestly. But it makes it at least easier for us to learn in some ways those energies. It's kind of like math, where you get lied to until you reach the point where there's like another lie, and then eventually you reach the truth. You know, I guess if we start trying to take away bigger numbers from smaller numbers in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, it makes the process of learning subtraction more difficult than like first let's figure out subtraction here, and then when we learn about negative numbers, we can evolve this understanding. You know. And it's not just math. There's a whole bunch of like, well, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do all this other stuff. But eventually, when you come of age, when you come to maturity, when you have the capacity, when your foundation is solid enough, you get to sort of like learn the truer, uh, truth, the truer truth. You learn the truer operations. Anyway, so that's it. It feels like again, even if I read the father, and this father has the opposite color scheme of even Leia. So again, almost like that alchemical wedding, Hieroskamos. Um, I feel like again, there's a question of what we should be polishing this with. It's almost like if What do you polish with like a wax or a resin? Maybe like wood. If you polish like wooden furniture, you may like do it with resin. But if you polish a mirror with resin, it like distorts it further. And again, the river of blood, I feel like with the river of blood being Sekhmet energy, that is a feminine energy in a way that we don't necessarily currently see feminine energy. Now, that could be like the protectiveness of Mother Bear to an extreme. Um, but it's almost like we would see that as a masculine expression, even though it's feminine energy. But then there's something about origins. There's a question I've had. I don't know if it necessarily fits here, so we'll just leave it. Oh wow, I feel like that's the first time my ears started ringing while I'm wearing these. And it's so weird because it's like my ear didn't ring, but you know how like when your ear rings, that like slight deafness to like noises in the environment as it's ringing. It's like I experienced that slight deafness with these already noise dampening headphones. And it was like real weird. But I didn't hear the ring either. I just like the sensation of an increased deafness, slight deafness. I was like, oh, that's what happens when my ears ring. One of these days, I'll do a half-hour video, and that'll be good for like 10 minutes. I feel like the river and blood. I mean, I guess you could say that the rivers are the blood streams of Earth, and it is water that nourishes life on the Earth. So that could also be like a ley line type energy, any kind of energetic line type energy. Um, but there was the Knight of Cups that was taking something around to the sacred pools to release their stagnation. And so the waters that come from those pools will also be released of whatever stagnating force is there. Like aeration would be the easiest sort of thing, lowest hanging fruit. But I guess it could also be like some kind of chemical composition, some kind of chemical compound that purifies water. Let's look at the river. Where's the hunter? You know what? I'm gonna look. It's before and after the hunter. Real quick. I feel like I'm going back and forward in this thing. So I'm pretty sure that is the hunter. I am not. I am not. I will. I'm gonna do it. I didn't. Here's the hunter. The hunter is the nectar, number 58. Oh, and the maiden is under the nectar, but the desert is under the maiden. The hunter, and then the lover. So the nectar and the lover, 58 and 27. Under the lover is Thanatos. Under Thanatos is the threshold. That's the threshold of life and death. And under the threshold is the cave. I mean, Thanatos, the threshold, the lever, the cave, it's high key Orpheus and Eurydice energy. Now that I've seen Chaos, I can remember both of their names. I actually do kind of got to run to the bathroom, so I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I was just thinking, even though the mother isn't here, so there are two family events, and obviously, apparently, I'm not at either, that are going on right now. There's a baby shower on one side and a birthday party on the other side. And I did really want to go to my aunt's birthday party because I feel like I've kind of been in this space. I don't know for how long, but I've been in this space of like really wanting to show up for the people who show up for so many. Um, for a minute. And she's one of those people that like I'll see at whoever else's birthday party. So I'll probably like I might go up there towards the end. Excuse me, or before it's over. Uh, but yeah, but they're on different sides of like my family. One is my mom's side, and the other is my mom's dad's. And I don't know why that was. I don't know. Just thought about it anyway. Because I looked at the time and I was like, oh, it's almost 5 o'clock. That means that the baby shower is almost over. This is like the second or third baby shower I've been invited to. And I'm like, there's a new era of like men, at least here, as far as I know. Maybe it's always been that way. But there's a new era of like men sort of like showing up to baby showers and like being invited, where it was kind of sort of before a more typically female space. Anyways, anyway, the nectar and the maiden. This is like the sap of the moonflower. That is heavy that energy. So the lover being the lover and the nectar surrounding the hunter. It almost feels like we have destined challenges, but we also have destined like opportunities. It's like An energy that's not a challenge, that is also destined for us. Fated meetings, fated encounters could, well, fated encounters fall in the gray area between destiny and fate because there are people that were destined to meet, but there are also people that were fated to encounter if we proceed down the path that we're on. Now, if it's a destined encounter, then it's one that will happen regardless of fate. So maybe instead of meeting this person at work, you'll come across them at the grocery store or wherever else. You go to a function and they're there, right? It's fine. Well, so like, I feel like low key, I need like more graphic tees and stuff. Because there have been a few people that like because of a shirt they wear, like if every pork chop were perfect, we wouldn't need hot dogs. And then you're like, oh, okay. Um, interesting because I don't see, this too often. And then you're just like, oh, let's check this out. Let's see what this is about. Or it'll be like, I don't know, like a sticker or something. And I'm not necessarily a huge graphic tee type person. I mean, I feel like that surprises no one. But I was like, maybe I should. Like, at least get into it a little bit. Because when I see something that, like, I'm into, I'm like, "Oh, like, cool." That's at least something to, like, talk about. Anyway, it's fine. I feel like I've kinda sorta low key been wanting to say that for a minute, but I haven't found the opportunity, maybe because I haven't created it or taken advantage of situations to create that opportunity to be like, "Oh my gosh, like, I saw this shirt and I loved it." As I continue to sip from this empty cup. Um, I don't know, it's just the whole it's fine. Alright, decentralizing. Well, maybe not, because okay, so it's like an example. So there are these not necessarily challenges that are fated or destined, and it feels like fate is almost passive, where, like, there's a fated day that we're meant to have this fated encounter. Again, with destiny, the avenue can change regardless of fate. But something about like a destined encounter with the hunter, it begins to chase us. I don't know. In my mind, it's like a fated encounter on this day, you will meet this person, but it's like that person or the universe not conniving, the universe orchestrating a hastened timeline, a quickened timeline. Or there's something about like something coming. But is that not the same thing? From the personal perspective, it feels the same as like, oh, I'm gonna meet this person in a month and 2 weeks versus like, oh, now this person is coming to me. It's like regardless, I'm not necessarily doing anything different. But from like a universal standpoint, that timeline is being like quickened. I mean, even from a personal standpoint, if it goes to like 2 weeks instead of a month and 2 weeks, but we don't know when that timing is. We may have a feeling, but it's not like we necessarily always have exact dates. You know what I mean? But yeah, there is the. I guess I could have picked a different finger, huh? There is the hunter and the river. But this is like a good thing. Did this not come out recently? Like I almost feel like it did, but I can't remember. There's like something positive. Yes, it came out. I can almost grab it. It was in the last booster pack reading. It was the coward, the human coward. And he was running away from something, but it was like it was the exit to the labyrinth, the exit to the house of nightmares. that was like it was trying to eject him, and it was like chasing after him because it's like he's like, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here. And the exit is like following him, but he's like, just because of the environment that he's in, where everything is so like tense and spooky and meant to be nightmarish, it's like it's hard to trust one thing or another. And if you wait too long, you may get snatched. And he ain't trying to get snatched. But again, it was that energy of like, it's actually something positive, it's actually something beneficial. And again, because the lover and the nectar surround the hunter, it feels like it's a good thing, but also take it as it resonates. Because there is a context that hopefully doesn't apply for anyone where it may not be a good thing. And again, we kind of sort of get that crucial angel of punishment type energy. The hunter. Why am I reading this? The seeker, the pursuer, the predator. The hunter hunts. They are on a precise mission with an aim. To return home empty handed would be to fail, which is not an option in the hunter's eye. The archetype will journey. This archetype will journey far and wide, seeking the prize that calls to its heart or stomach. Is that like low key? Like, is it Epicurean like a foodie? I'll take it. To its heart or its stomach. Tales of bravery and feats of strength often result, creating a life full of adventure. The hunter is skillful, quick, decisive, and results oriented. Like the great hunting goddess Artemis or Diana, who carries her quiver upon her back, the hunter typically has a weapon of choice. When this card appears, it is critical that you ask three questions. It is critical that you ask three questions. You see that? With the father of water being the archimage of water that will truthfully answer three yes or no questions. Oh my gosh. I pulled this card for a reason. I'm reading it for a reason, and it doesn't matter if the video was 5 hours long instead of 20. Someday I'll get there. Just not today. Oh, wrong way, wrong way. There we go. Also, okay, I'll finish this first. When this card appears, it is critical that you ask three questions. What am I hunting? Why am I hunting it? Is the weapon I hold so tightly in my grip truly needed for the task at hand? There's like the way that the hunter is chasing this like light down the tunnel. Again, it's one of those. Okay, so the lead in the blood, where it should be iron, should be, which is creating this like an energy of sepsis, something that is meant to be healing is instead inflammatory. As we transmute that, as the lead in the blood turns into ichor, there is a glow or a shining. There's a radiance to gold that need not be polished, unlike silver. And as we become more radiant, or whoever this resonates for, as they become more radiant, they become more visible to the hunter. And the hunter chases down their light. But again, with the hunter coming out between the nectar, which is also like it, let's just go. Let's just read it from the book ourselves. 50, I think. Yes. The nectar is the medicine, the elixir of the garden. In Hindu mythology, there is a miraculous substance known as amrit, or nectar, that contains infinite healing power. And the healer again is here with the snakes. Oh, Kurt. This golden nectar or sacred elixir is the drink of immortality, and like its sister substance, soma, is known to activate subtle, intelligent forces that ease the mind, body, and spirit. Though esoteric, these images lead us to the central energy of this archetype, the sweet, potent, heavenly essence that lubricates our spirit back to life. The nectar card calls us to identify and relish in places, practices, people, and activities that regenerate and heal. Medicine is needed, and it comes in subtle form, that you may be overlooking. Seek, the seeker, seek the most sensuous, fragrant flower in the garden you have forgotten. Don't underestimate this remedy. It is said when someone has activated the substance within, it is reflected in their shimmering eyes. When it's activated within, it is reflected. And that's again how the hunter can identify whatever it is that they've been hunting for however long they've been hunting. So, flavor text, sense the nectar within you dripping from the crown of the head and soothing the brain. Let it drip down the spine like sweet honey. The nectar, the mystic, and aletheia cards are linked. It is the mystic who, like Krishna, turns poison into nectar, and it is truth that can often serve as a potent elixir for healing. We saw aletheia. Aletheia was under the father because it was that same like black and white and black uh color scheme thing. Okay, cute. So lastly, there's Hyros Kamos again for the black, white, white, black that is led in the father. I'm gonna go back through. I'm gonna find number 9, which I'm sure is a planet, and we're gonna end it. I don't think it's Pluto, but if it is, wouldn't that be funny? I know it's a planet though, so I'm just gonna not even look at the numbers of these cards. I'm just looking for planets. I am 99% sure it is a planet. Oh, if it's Neptune. Pluto is 10. So it's probably Neptune. It is Neptune. Before and after Neptune is conjunction and antimony. Smoke is under antimony, Mars is under conjunction. Where there is smoke, there is fire, almost type energy. There's something about Mars and smoke with a conjunction and antimony. Again, as the lead is transmuted in the blood into a golden ichor, it is immune to antimony. It does not tarnish and it is not worn down by the presence of antimony. So the blood becomes holy. It's a cleansing of the blood. The cleansing of the blood could also be when I was like talking about my family, right, on my mom's side and my mom's dad's side. It's almost like we have a holy aspect and I don't want to say unholy. There is this came out in the moon card. The wolf represents the primal survival. The dog, which is domesticated, but it more so represents the heavenly. I forgot the words. I remember the words. I'm forgetting them again. There's two aspects to our nature, right? The blood of the body pulses through the veins, but it's when we can get the ichor, which is the blood of the spirit in the body, that there is a Gamos wedding of our spiritual and material, the tower, spiritual and material colliding, that has the acts of Shiva that removes corruption and the Trishula also in the SKT. And again, both the Neptune and the Hunter, but in Neptune, it's almost like this is the source of the light. Girl, there we go. This is the source of the light. And the hunter, it's like chasing it. Am I gonna read Neptune? Probably not. That's where Saturn. Well, Saturn. I think Saturn is actually going to conjunct Neptune in Aries. They're both in Pisces right now. It's going to conjunct Aries when the North Node is in Pisces. It has to be because that conjunction is some time away. Now, the nodes move through the zodiac retrograde. So I think the North Node will still be within the realm of a conjunction, within orb for a conjunction. Uh, no problem. But the North Node will be in Pisces, and then Saturn and Neptune will be in Aries. So that's that. And again, we have the 6446 of calcification and sparks of light that are set to the side. Um, I don't know. I guess silver is here again. It's the polishing of what has been tarnished. We actually do have Saturn and lead. So, oops, Saturn and Neptune are both on the table. We just had we just had a full moon Pisces lunar eclipse because it was Saturn, the moon, and the father, and now we have Neptune tied to the hunter. It was like when the moon was between Saturn and uh, Neptune in Pisces. I feel like that's it. I feel like any conclusions beyond this are to be drawn individually. I don't know. I'm not necessarily seeing it going anywhere else that I need to take it at least right now. This feels like a pretty good spot to end it. It was just 1 2 2 1 1. Yeah, I said we weren't gonna get final cards, but with all these cards, I think we will. I have already ventured beyond an hour, so mhm. Neptune. I think too, because Neptune is here with the hunter. I know Neptune. Let's look that up. Because I know Neptune rules like the seas, and I'm assuming the oceans. It's more so a question of like, does Neptune also rule? Did I have my lunar return? What? Well, it says the moon's about to go in Gemini. I am a late Taurus moon, so it does happen on the same day more often than not. I just Google, does Neptune rule rivers? In Roman mythology, Neptune was the god of fresh water, including rivers and lakes. He was also the god of the sea, horses, and naval victories. Oh, look, and then there's the horse and the hunter. So cool. The reason why I asked is because this river, springs, and waters. So this is in contrast to Poseidon, who was primarily a god of the sea, which is interesting. Neptune is the Roman equivalent to Poseidon, but they rule different waters. Neptune rules fresh waters, Poseidon rules salt waters. Interesting. Well, the card does say Neptune, so we get the one that rules over rivers. Cool. Um, Neptune, this is all the realm of Neptune. So yeah, because when I was talking about the hunter, Sometimes water can throw off the scent, but it depends on the hunter. Because Neptune rules rivers and horses, the river isn't going to make it any more difficult. That's an interesting thing. The river doesn't make it any more difficult for this hunter backed by Neptune to pursue it. It actually makes it easier because in entering the river, someone enters the domain of Neptune. This has been long enough. It's fine. But there's some kind of synchronicity here. Something mentioned the crown chakra, nectar. Nectar mentioned the crown. It's like I don't know if it's as this transmutation of lead is taking place. It feels like there's this. It looks like a rose, but it's giving me lotus. And the more lead is transmuted into gold, creating that ichor, the more petals on this lotus that like blossom. And then eventually you get to the thousand petal lotus, which again is the crown. And with that open crown, it's interesting that vinegar is here. Vinegar and the poet is to not be lost or to not be consumed. We change, we evolve, we grow, and in all that, we get closer and closer to a truer version of self or to a version of self that is a certain percentage, like a certain percentage of lead to gold in the blood, you could say. But we don't want to lose ourselves or be consumed because gold ichor can be intoxicating, especially I don't know. It feels like the intoxication of liquor knows no limits. I was gonna say it's intoxicating to man, but depending on the divine or deified energy, depending on like deified energy, I guess, and that's where I'll draw a line between like divine energy and deified energy because it feels like the intoxication of ichor means nothing to divine energy. Like to divine energy, it isn't anything to like clamor about, but to a deified energy, because it is their lifeblood, it has a certain element of like preciousness to it. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. Excuse me. The Father is still a mystery that I don't feel too keen to dig into. Maybe the mystery will be revealed whenever this destined meeting takes place. When this destined meeting takes place, there is a truth that will be revealed that is often so easy to misconstrue, and then we will see the other side of the Father, or we will know the other side of the Father. Let me text my number one fan real quick. I might have somebody take me to the party. Or maybe they'll just swing by and pick me up. I don't know. It's been So maybe the giving where they give back is a natural extension to this feeling that I've been having of like, I want to show up for the people that show up for other people. So grandmother's house. Excuse me. All right. We're good. Final cards. I'll get ready. The shadow at the bottom of the deck. Again, because I've gone back and forward and back and forward. What was at the top is now at the bottom. There is with the vinegar again, with the vinegar of the river, and as the Ichor to blood or Ichor to lead ratio increases, as the blood, as the lead to gold ratio decreases, more gold, more Ichor than lead in the blood. There, what comes to mind is ooh, that was so interesting. What comes to mind is one of the stories. There was an avatar of Krishna, I believe. No, Vishnu. There was an avatar of Vishnu that may have been Krishna. I don't remember. But there was like a war. And the avatar, I think it was an avatar of Krishna or Krishna that went up into its like Vishnu because it was also an avatar of Vishnu. How it all shakes out and breaks down who was an avatar of who was an avatar of who. I came upon the information one time. I think it was Krishna or an avatar of Krishna that in a war went like full Vishnu and was going ham. And everybody was concerned because Vishnu is associated with balance. So because Vishnu is associated with balance, Vishnu can't necessarily be upsetting the balance. So like after a moment, like it whoever like calmed down and like went back to being whoever they were. And it feels like that's sort of kind of like the intoxication of Ichor, but the concern to not go too far of um, vinegar to not be lost. It came to mind, so I said it. And again, it was because Vishnu is representative of balance. You can't be upsetting the balance like that. Now, if you want to be Krishna and have a loose whatever, or even an avatar of Krishna, that's fine. But when you go all the way up, and that's something that that's kind of sort of the thing that's been on my mind lately because there's been certain situations where someone has been like, this is giving power somebody power over you, or that's giving somebody power over you. And to me, I guess it's just a question of knowing what our power is. Do we have to even know what our power is in the first place to know if we're giving it away or to know if we're like standing in it? You know what I mean? And so that's what, like, there's a power that Vishnu has. And again, I think it's this chain, it may not be. There's a power that Vishnu has, there's a power that Krishna has, and then there's a power that if there's an avatar of Krishna, that avatar has. And when we go up the chain or depending, there are certain stipulations that power must abide by to maintain cosmological order. I don't know, it came to mind, and I've had that question of like sometimes I personally feel like sometimes it's important for us to know what our power is, to know if like whether or not we're giving it away to somebody else. You know what I mean? And also boundaries and all kinds of other stuff becomes important too. So sparks of light and conjunction, the gathering of these sparks of light, the gathering of these low key, low key. There is this very thin tether to the completion of the Oshas and Tarot, and how there's like that stamp of approval. Someone is like building a new astral body or connecting to divine or deified force or whatever. And that either that deity or something if within the suite of divine authority is putting a seal of approval on someone's use of whatever power. And it feels like that's this gathering of these sparks of light. Again, the golden ichor in the blood, the golden ichor in the physical body would be these sparks of light that are assembling in the spirit that forms a tied connection to the soul or a soul. Or my brain operates in metaphor. Take it as it resonates when it resonates. If it resonates, and if it don't resonate, don't take it, please. But also at the end of the day, you're gonna do whatever you want to do. So, three cards, I thought it was two, but three cards immediately fell out in a lot of my archetypes. It is Apocalypsis. So Apocalypsis and the Starborn were the first two cards that I saw. This is 3 and 74. Apocalypsis and the Star. It feels like Apocalypsis and the Starborn has an energy that almost feels like the progenitors in a primordial pool. That was like the conditions were perfect, the environment was perfect, the situation was perfect, everything that needed to be there was there for this like leap in evolution. It feels like just like when the chains of the devil hit the ground hard enough for it to feel like a tower. It feels like when whatever hatches out of this starborn egg hatches, it's this like apocalypse energy. The siren, number 18, is the card in between them, which again, it's the 2 9. Two nines is an 18. Here's number 18. The two nines was the hunter in Neptune. Um, when I was like, this is a 295. I don't know why I'm so whatever, but it was a 295. So the two nines lead to a five. Hunter and Neptune, also the siren, leads to some kind of great change. Um, yeah, like that's this pool to something. There's something that is like may have been stagnant or dormant for a while, but now it's like, I don't know, the conditions are perfect. The egg knows that whatever is inside of the egg knows that it's time to hatch. So, Apocalypse, 75. This is removing the veil of deception. Cool. Love it. Apocalypsis indicates a particularly painful time. I'm not going to read this. Am I going to read it? Sure, I'm going to read it. One that unfolds when two disparate dynamics occur simultaneously, pulling the psyche in seemingly opposing directions. The first is a lifting of the veil. This means truths that have been kept in the dark are revealed, seen, and unearthed. No matter how relieving it is to witness them come into the light, an element of despair and grief follows. The second dynamic is the regeneration that comes from the wreckage of the revealed truth. The old narrative breaks and a new story forms. Apocalypse's energy is similar to a forest fire's devastation. To a forest fire's devastation for the sake of regeneration. The veil lifts and we see who and what has been hiding. From the nakedness of the truth, a child is born. Have faith in the process. Hold on to your center. That is the only way. There was a card that mentioned Alethea. It may have been Nectar. I don't think so. It could have been. I don't remember. Maybe it was the Hunter. Was it the Healer? There was a card that mentioned Alethea, and I was like, oh, we saw Alethea under the Father. It was that black and white. Apocalypsis leads to the truth. Alethea is the truth that is revealed. But this is the process that precedes the truth. And again, it's something about when this starborn hatches, that causes these veils to like be obliterated. We have the desert and the maiden. The desert maiden. These two cards were under the sap of the moonflower. No, it was the sap of the moonflower is alchemy first and foremost. Under nectar was the maiden, and under the maiden was the desert. These were the two cards under the nectar and the maiden made me think of the sap of the moonflower. Cool. Cool, cool. Another 2 hour live. 2 hours. It's fine. We'll get to 30 minutes someday when it's appropriate. All right. What unknown. Bottom of the deck is sugar because ultimately it's supposed to be like very sweet. But it is the 31 that's the mirror to death. I love that whatever card it was like coming back to life because that's what that death card in reverse felt like. It felt more like coming back to life than a transformation or a resistance to the death process. I guess that coming back to life is a resistance to a death process, isn't it? Or a dying process. To be reborn without dying is to come back to life. Ooh, that was a dirty flip, but I know what card it was. Venus, but I'm not gonna take it because it was a dirty flip. Interesting. What calcification is at the bottom or at the bottom? Cutting to the great work. Okay. Oh, that was a graceful flip. It was a little dirty, but it had so much grace and elegance. So I'll take it. Guess what the card is? If you guessed sap of the moon plant, then you are correct. Bottom of the deck is lead, the base material that we transmute into gold. Also, number three. Number three was the starborn. So we have three again in Mercury. But this time it's with 41 instead of, well, no, that was 31. Sap of the moon plant. Cool. I'm going to read Sap of the Moon plant because we know what Mercury is. Again, that Mercury hinting at the starborn 41. Succus lunariae, succus, succus, succulent, lunariae sap of the moon plant. Nocturnal sacred water of the unconscious. Succus lunaria. Now this says lunaria. The other one said lunariae. Sap of the moon plant is an ancient substance said to be born of water, plant, and moonlight. This elixir develops in the depth of night and is thus a metaphor for the wellspring of the unconscious. When this alchemical magic is afoot, it's all about dreams. The answer you are seeking will not come from the intellect nor the opinion of others. It will surface from the depths as if rising from the ancient waters of your memory. The work is to rest, restore, and awaken your celestial senses. Do this by pausing, by releasing your grip. The sap of the moon plant signifies you are in the deep territory of destiny and the imagination. This is a mythic moment. The dream is waiting to show itself, but awaits your sincere invitation. Ask and rest. All will be revealed. Love it. Sap of the moon plant is said to be linked to the pineal gland and can be increased by the practice of meditation. Sitting for a few moments in the evening is especially beneficial. There are many names for the sacred elixir. Soma, Soma nectar. Okay, Soma, we saw in the nectar card and nectar. I knew this sap of the moon plant was on something. Aqua Vitae, Aqua Nostra, and Venum ardens, to name a few. Remember, dreams are the mother tongue of humanity. And that's what it felt like. And then Mercury being the planet of communication, sort of like emphasizing that. That's what it felt like Neptune and the Hunter was. Like with the Hunter, it would come through dreams. Woo, 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 woo. That's where the truth of the Father will be revealed and other things. Cool. Love it. So, thank y'all for stopping by, Holly. And I can't see, my eyes are like. I hope that you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting along it to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey will you find. I didn't necessarily think we would be going into the Lord with this ICC, but yeah, there we are again. So cool. Was there anything else that need to be said? There's a part of me, maybe less so a part of me. When I asked the question of like, is there anything else that wants to be said? There was an energy that was like, it's not about secrecy, but it's almost about like keeping your revelations and realizations to yourself. If this hunter does find you, if the allure of the siren, that is the bursting, the birthing, the germinating of that starborn egg, and the subsequent veils that sort of like fall, the truths that are revealed as those veils are falling. I guess the benefit of keeping it to yourself is that it allows others the opportunity to like naturally go through that process themselves, uh, and to come upon whatever truths are revealed to them. And then maybe at some point we convene and we bring all of our truths together, and then there is some greater vision that we sort of see. Um, and I think because there's the part that I forget, there's like a term for it, I'm sure, where we kind of alter our memory and understanding and knowing to fit a collective experience or a collectively agreed upon recollection, right? Somebody breaks in and you see Freddy Krueger sweater, and like that's all you see. Like that, it's a like a Freddy Krueger sweater, and someone else is like, oh, he was wearing like a bowler's cap. And someone else was like, oh, he was wearing like a green bodysuit. And what happens is like if the witnesses talk to each other, then it's like the details kind of sort of blend, but the details blend in a way that is not reflective of the truth, right? It's like we all sort of focus or fixate on different aspects of what's going on, and we can use someone else's to fill in the gaps for us. And then our brain has to go like, okay, well, if he was wearing a green bodysuit, then how was it like the Freddy Krueger sweater? It was like, I know that was a Freddy Krueger sweater. And then the other person is like if he was wearing a green bodysuit and a boiler hat, like that doesn't even make sense. Like, was the hat under the bodysuit? Did it have the outline of a boiler hat? And meanwhile, the person that was like, oh, he was wearing a green bodysuit is a plant. He's working with the robber to try to throw off the witnesses so that they can't get their story straight. In truth, maybe he was wearing a Freddy Krueger sweater and a boiler hat. It don't necessarily got to be that, but that's just the which again plays into the whole. Sometimes it's important to to not leave things up for misinterpretation because there can be an element of the truth that is lost for whatever reason, intentional or not. It doesn't matter. But anyway, it'll give you more time to witness the world through that new lens of truth and to hone in on the truth and to better collaborate when it's time to come to the table because you will be more firm in that. And then we can see where everything overlaps and fill in the details with truth instead of misdirection and stuff like that. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. All right. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go get ready. Bye.